We talk about nutrition quite a bit, and it's something we hear about a lot on City Line, but today we've got some special guests in to talk about the relationship between the food you are eating and your oral health and your overall health. It is Dr. Travis Stork from the Doctors and Laurie Jennings, Deputy Editor at Chatelaine Magazine. You know, you join us all the time, but it's good to have you here talking about this with Dr. Travis as well. So there's certain things we hear all the time, and one of them is sugar, okay? I wish I could actually counter this and say, sugar's good for you because I love it, but it is not. It's terrible for you. You get addicted to it, and it's really bad for your teeth. So let's talk about sugar, Laurie.
Well, the one thing about sugar that I think a lot of people don't know is there are over 20 words that literally mean sugar on labels. So one of the most important ways to avoid sugar is to read a label and look for those words that are sugar on the label.
Are some of those very long words that we can't really pronounce?
Can't pronounce, words that end in os.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things like that.
The good news is labels soon should tell you how many added sugars are in products. But the key, here, well, potentially that's going to become a phenomenon globally. It's not that sugar is bad for you. People are going to freak out when I say that.
Too much sugar.
Too much sugar, and there's too much sugar hidden in the foods we don't even think about. When you go buy ketchup, a lot of times you got to read, okay, is sugar the second ingredient? A lot of times the sugar isn't necessarily, say, the little teaspoon of sugar we're putting in our coffee. It's in everything else you're eating for breakfast. And so look out for hidden sugar, because too much of it is when you're create a lot of problems in the body, inflammation. It really does. Too much sugar depresses your immune system. You're more likely to get sick.
Okay, so the whole thing about, you know, kids and candy and kids and juice, we're about to talk about juice a little bit now. A lot of people say kids shouldn't even be drinking juice at all, and it's mostly about the teeth. Is that true?
Well, it's not just about the teeth. The thing with juice is, juice, yes, it has the antioxidants from the fruit, but you've taken out the fiber, which means it's a huge sugar load. And too much sugar, we just talked about what it can do to the body. It also promotes obesity if you get too much of it. But you're right, sugar, I'll tell you what, the bacteria in your mouth love to eat on that sugar, and that's what leads to tooth decay and potentially gum disease. So if you're going to drink juice, for kids, it's great to actually dilute it sometimes with a little bit of water to cut back on the sugar and use a straw.
Right, okay. Well, I never gave my kids juice, and we go on vacation from time to time, and you're at a resort and they have just these machines and they just serve juice. And, you know, I'll give my kids juice and it's like it's the most incredible experience. You can see the synapses going in their brain. They're like, what is this?
Because it's so
sugary. Good.
And we were talking about this earlier. I'm a big fan of a smoothie where you know, you blend up the whole fruit, keep the fiber in it. And you make your own juice.
I make my own juice.
I make my own juice. So do you put stuff like kale in it? And
here's the thing. Juice doesn't have to be fruit juice.
Yeah.
Juice can be vegetable juice.
Right.
Or a mix. So when I'm diluting juice, I'm diluting it when I make my juice with vegetables that are lower by nature in sugar.
Which is great. And I think that's an important point. Vegetable juice is very different than fruit juice.
And there are some sugars that are okay for you. Isn't that true? Like if I have an orange, there's sugar in there. I'm still trying for the sugar thing, eh? Like a chocolate chip cookie.
You know what? Here's what's crazy is if you teach your kids how to enjoy real sugar, as in berries and fruit, then all of a sudden they learn how to enjoy what real orange tastes like instead of the candy orange flavors that kids do tend towards. But the key is sugar, again, is not bad for you. It's how you eat that sugar. And carbs aren't necessarily bad for you.
Nope.
The complex carbs, if you add them into your diet, it gives you fuel. It's just move away from the simple sugars, because over time too much of that really does lead to a lot of the problems that we're seeing in people these days.
Okay, you got it. Let's talk a little bit about acidity in our foods, because that's another thing that can be tough on the stomach, tough on the teeth. What should we be looking out for, Laurie?
Well, we want to avoid those foods that are high in acids because they also put us in a bit more of a disease state. So if you're high pH or you're too acidic, it's not a good place to be. So we want low GI, low acidity foods.
Okay. What kind of fruits are we talking about, or vegetables, Dr. Travis?
Well, I personally, we distree a little bit on that. I'm not a big believer that you need to avoid, because these are highly acidic foods. Lemon, highly acidic food. You know, coffee, which is the #1 source of antioxidants in a lot of people's diets, actually is an acidic food.
Do you like coffee?
So it's more about the balance. I guess the ultimate message then is it's more about the balance between acid and low pH.
Yeah, and our bodies are designed to balance out the pH in our bloodstream. But the one thing that is true so much with acidic foods is that acidity can wear away your enamel on your teeth. So if it just lingers, And what I say is if you're going to eat something that's acidic or you drink coffee, rinse your mouth out with water afterwards. And it's actually the one time where you may want to wait till you brush your teeth for about 30 minutes.
Oh, really?
So you're not brushing the enamel away from the acidic food.
Well, we've talked a little bit now about acidity and having acidic foods in your system. Let's talk about the connection then between your oral health and your overall health.
Well, it's key. I've had this great partnership with Crest and Oral-B because I get to go around and talk about how oral health and inflammation in your mouth can potentially lead to inflammation in the rest of your body. So it's so important to establish a routine each and every day. So I'm a huge fan of the Pro Health line because what it does is 3 steps. Floss every day, brush for 2 minutes, twice a day, and use an oral rinse that's going to protect against that inflammation, which is gingivitis, because 1 in 2 people have gingivitis, and we're learning more and more about the connection between diabetes and oral health, and more I think is going to come out in the next few years as studies really do allow us to realize how inflammation here can potentially lead to inflammation elsewhere.
Okay, and you don't want inflammation in your body that leads to a whole host of other problems, right?
And we talked about sugar before, inflammation, and literally only 3 in 10 Canadians are flossing every day. It's important that everyone really steps up to the plate because good oral health early on really does prevent problems later.
It doesn't take you that long to floss either.
It doesn't.
Right? It's
It
not that
doesn't.
big a
30
deal.
seconds.
Throw it
30
in there.
seconds.
Well, thanks so much for the information, guys.